The final week of December ushers the National Football League into its playoff season. And in Bloomington, Minnesota's Metropolitan Stadium, fans of all shapes and sizes gather in a ritual that is a commonplace in Minnesota. The Vikings have qualified for the playoffs for the 7th time in 9 years, and it was a spirited hometown atmosphere which greeted Bud Grant's Vikings, a team which many felt to be the most awesome purple gang ever assembled. The Vikings had rolled up 12 victories, and as defending NFC champions were never seriously questioned as contenders, a sharp contrast to today's opponent, the Dallas Cowboys. Tom Landry's Cowboys have emerged from the rugged Eastern Division to lay siege on the NFC's wild card slot. And after scratching and clawing their way around the trials of youth and inexperience to finish with a 10-4 mark, Dallas has earned the right to challenge the Vikings. It will be the youth and enthusiasm of the Dallas Cowboys against the veteran cool of the Minnesota Vikings in the NFL Game of the Week. The initial problem for Dallas was that of rooting out the NFL's top-ranked defense, and to that end, the Cowboys' plan of attack called for a quick opening ground game, a plan geared to pop Cowboy backs free for short yet steady gains. To neutralize the great Minnesota pass rush, Roger Staubach sent his backs swinging from the backfield, or deployed them on well-timed screens that set them free in the Viking secondary. However, a penalty negated the Dallas strategy, and then a blistering pass rush forced Staubach to settle for something less than a first down, ending the Cowboys' initial possession in failure. Minnesota's first possession fared no better, as Dallas closed in quickly on Fran Tarkenton's air game. When things got tight on the shorter throws, Tarkenton went to his deep threat and very nearly cashed in on a long-range shot to wide receiver John Gilliam. Tarkenton's throwing error may have cost the Vikings 6 points, but when Dallas regained possession, Cowboy incompetence cost them a first down. And the tension of the playoff game was beginning to manifest itself in the form of fundamental errors by both teams. This pattern continued when Dallas tried to punt. Number 21, Joe Blahak, was called for running into the kicker, giving Dallas a new life, which very nearly ended when number 88, Alan Page, shot the gap and forced a fumble. Though Cowboy guard Blaine Nye recovered, the lost yardage forced Dallas to turn the ball back to the Vikings, where Fran Tarkenton looked to his ace in a hole, running back Chuck Foreman. But Dallas, too, was looking for number 44. Foreman was a marked man, and his gains minimal, as Doomsday drew a bead on the multi-talented back. Finally, out of desperation, Tarkenton took matters into his own hands and moved the Vikings 16 yards ahead on what was to be Minnesota's longest play of the first half. Tarkenton's timely jaunt gave the Purple Gang a first down, and as the second quarter began, Sir Francis was again airing it out for his favorite long ball target, John Gilliam. Only a spectacular save by Cowboy cornerback Mark Washington prevented a Gilliam score. However, when the Vikings were later forced to punt, things began to look up for Minnesota as a routine punt turned into a maddening affair for the Dallas Cowboys. Thinking the ball had been touched by return man Cliff Harris, number 67 Pat Donovan tried and failed to grab the football. Minnesota recovered and was awarded possession on the Cowboy 4-yard line. The Cowboys claimed that Harris had not been given ample opportunity to field the kick. Yet, in a replay, it appears as if Harris was perhaps trying to draw the interference penalty more than catch the ball. After 2 plays shoved the ball to the Cowboy 1, Dallas dug in for the inevitable, a Chuck Foreman leap, which was just like clockwork in its predictability, yet just like dynamite in its effectiveness. Much to the chagrin of the Cowboys, the Vikings had drawn first blood. 7-0 by virtue of the game's first turnover, and Minnesota fans were going ape. Following a missed Dallas field goal attempt, Fran Tarkenton created the game's second turnover, when with protection galore, he uncharacteristically cut loose a pass which should never have left his hand. Cowboy cornerback Mel Renfro grabbed the errant Tarkenton spiral, kept both feet in bounds, and awarded Dallas another chance to move the football. From his own territory, Roger Staubach went to work, and on the strength of 2 short completions to Gold and Richards, sailed the Cowboys into Viking land. With minor success via the short passing route, Staubach turned to his running attack to try and squeeze out a first down. Number 21, Doug Dennison, tested the Viking middle on 3rd down, but came up short. The distance needed was small, and a measurement revealed that it was only a matter of inches. So on 4th down from the Viking 24-yard line, Dallas decided to gamble, and Minnesota tightened up to snuff out the uprising. The Cowboy threat was ended, crushed beneath the solid rocks of the purple-shirted defense. However, in the waning minutes of the first half, Dallas again started to prowl as Staubach generaled the Cowboys on plays like this screen to running back Preston Pearson, number 26. The only man on the Dallas roster who didn't begin his pro career with the Cowboys, Preston Pearson has strengthened Dallas with his receiving and running skills this season. And this 24-yarder helped near the visitors towards midfield. But the final Cowboy threat went the way of all the others, as Minnesota received the big plays that they needed to turn back the Dallas attack. Veteran defensive end Carl Eller sacked Staubach 3 times during the final minutes of the first half, allowing Minnesota to maintain a 7-0 advantage. It had been a conservative, head-knocking first half. Yet on display were glimpses of the big play excitement which both clubs are capable of producing. And with but 30 minutes remaining, the outcome was still in serious doubt. At halftime, both teams were skating on thin ice. The Vikings were ahead by a lucky 7, but had been thoroughly dominated by the Doomsday defense. On their first offensive series of the second half, Dallas auspiciously began a drive that would put them in the end zone for the first time. Roger Staubach, who had trouble receiving the ball from center John Fitzgerald all day, recovered from this near disaster to pick up some yardage. Then on third down, Roger took a very quick, deep drop designed to thwart the Viking rush and passed to Preston Pearson for a pickup of 14 yards. A late hit by number 58 Wally Hilgenberg added 15 more, and Dallas was inside Minnesota territory. On the next play, after a fake to Doug Dennison, Staubach found Billy Joe Dupree surrounded by nothing more than cold air, and the big tight end rambled to the Viking 19. With the purple gang reeling, Doug Dennison slid through the right side for 10 more yards. Then 2 plays later, with tremendous acceleration, Dennison knifed into the end zone for the tying touchdown. After stopping the Minnesota attack again, Dallas was on the move once more. The one big play in the drive was a pass on which Staubach looked away the defense until the moment he threw. Robert Newhouse was the recipient, but Nate Wright came up fast to make the tackle. A few plays later, the Cowboys settled for Tony Frisch's 24-yard field goal. But for the first time today, the score reflected the dominant team as Dallas went ahead 10-7. Early in the fourth quarter, Dallas literally missed a golden opportunity to score when Golden Richards beat his defender but mishandled Staubach's bomb. At this point, Minnesota took over, and for the first time and only time today, resembled the well-oiled machine that normally is the Vikings' offense. The key to the Dallas defense through much of this game was their tight coverage of the Viking backs on pass routes. But now Tarkenton found Foreman, then Marinero on successive passes, though both times Dallas linebackers came up quickly to stifle further advancement. The next time Tarkenton tried the circle pass pattern, Foreman took advantage of the close coverage and got loose for additional yardage deep into Dallas territory. Then Tarkenton tried trickery, a halfback reverse to McClanahan that worked for 13 yards. Two plays later, with great second effort, McClanahan burst into the end zone for the touchdown. On a beautifully conceived series, Minnesota had regained the lead 14-10. With just over 5 minutes remaining, it was up to the heralded Viking defense to put away the game. Both teams exchanged punts, and with 1:51 showing, Dallas began their now infamous pressure-packed drive. It began appropriately enough with a Staubach quick out to Pearson in front of Nate Wright at the right sideline. But with a first down, the poor center snaps that plagued Staubach throughout the game occurred again, and Roger was downed for an 8-yard loss. Two incomplete passes later, it was 4th down and 16. No tomorrow. Now or never. From the shotgun, Staubach arched a high pass to the right sideline, which Drew Pearson caught before going out of bounds. Working against virtually the same Viking defense that dominated the Cowboys in the NFC Championship 2 years ago, Staubach and Pearson had pulled off an extremely difficult play. As a repeat in super slow motion shows, Staubach's sideline pass had to be perfectly placed for Pearson to reach it before going out of bounds. And it was indeed. If ever there was a clutch performance in a crucial situation, this was it. Even though the Minnesota defense vigorously argued that Pearson would have gone over the line without a push from right, the officials ruled that the impetus was provided by a shove from the defender. A third look at this play from the end zone proves the officials were correct in their judgment. The Cowboys had a desperately needed first down and new life at midfield, but only 37 seconds remained and Dallas was 50 yards away. First down from the shotgun, and Staubach's pass was dropped by Preston Pearson. Second down now with 32 seconds and 50 yards standing between Dallas defeat and Minnesota victory. Now was to come the play that one expert said would be talked about as long as the game of football is played. Incredibly, unbelievably, the Cowboys had scored on a miracle play. As Roger Staubach said in the locker room, it was a Hail Mary pass. I threw as hard as I could and prayed. Minnesota didn't share Staubach's jubilation and claimed there had been offensive interference by Pearson on the play. Let's take another look at the controversial touchdown from a unique vantage point in the end zone. Once the ball is in the air, both receiver and defender can go for the ball. And in the opinion of the officials, that is just what occurred. The miracle play by Pearson had given the Cowboys the lead with only 32 seconds left in the game. With one final look at the sensational play, note that immediately after the catch, an orange was thrown on the field. Many television viewers thought this was a flag to denote interference. It wasn't, and the score was now 17-14. There was an unsportsmanlike penalty on the Vikings after the touchdown. Thus, Tony Fritsch's kickoff came from midfield and pinned the Vikings deep in their half of the field on the 15. With only 18 seconds showing now, the Minnesota Vikings faced an impossible task, and Ed Too Tall Jones emphasized that fact. Here occurred, however, a distasteful incident which diverted the focus of the game from the field to the fans. Armand Terzian, the field judge, was felled by a bottle thrown from the stands, and the game was suddenly transcended by something far more important. Luckily, Terzian was able to leave the field under his own power, but it could have been far more serious an injury. After the game, the Minnesota Vikings offered a $5,000 reward for the arrest and conviction of the person responsible for the senseless act. When play resumed, Minnesota's final chance was ended in appropriate fashion by the doomsday defense that had so thoroughly dominated the day. Amazingly, the Dallas Cowboys in a rebuilding year would play in a championship game. Tom Landry had said he hoped his team wouldn't drop too low in the standings due to the fact that key veterans had been replaced by 12 rookies on the roster. For the Minnesota Vikings and coach Bud Grant, it was a shocking defeat. Much of the pre-playoff discussion had been about the Vikings' chances to appear in a third straight Super Bowl and whether they would finally win in the big game. But because of one sudden, stunning miracle play, they will never know. For the Dallas Cowboys prevailed in a surprising game, a controversial game, and without a doubt one of the most exciting games ever played in the National Football League.